The food industry for way too long has been focused almost exclusively, or certainly disproportionately, on taste and experience. Being a physiologist, being a physician, to us, we're looking at our consumer far more holistically now. Not only what their experience and sensory experience is, but what this product is going to mean to their body. That thinking is starting to impact how we design products and develop products. A substantial number of our products now, and at least half the products we're developing, are either, for example, on the beverage side, are low sugar to no sugar. It's a huge shift in our portfolio. If we look at just sugar reduction in our US market, since 2006, I think is the number we looked at, over to 2011, 370,000 tons of sugar were removed as added sugar from our beverages, the US alone. That thinking happens because you start to really look at it. Sodium reduction, the same. Saturated fat reduction. Huge reductions in these. One of the things I observed about, and I'm going to focus on the R&D side, in particular the food industry has been heavily dominated, and I would say disproportionately dominated by a thinking about process efficiency and engineering, as opposed to the whole breadth of science. And our industry grew through efficient production and distribution. And that allowed scale. That was absolutely necessary in the early days of this industry. If you think about World War II and coming out of World War II, much of North America's people, certainly post-war Europe, post-war Japan, including, of course, Asia and Africa, people were hungry. And they were hungry because there wasn't enough food, and it was dangerous. It was either contaminated or it was microbiologically unsafe. Fast forward 50 years. We almost never think about food poisoning when we go to the supermarket and buy something in the US or Western. It's the exception. In fact, it makes the news. It's that rare. Okay? Nobody's going to bed hungry at the scale it used to be. Okay? The US military couldn't recruit soldiers for World War II because they were malnourished in this country. It became a crisis of security for this country. And today, we have 1 billion people that are either overweight or obese. We have widespread availability of food. However, it's now also time, and we've recognized it early on, to think about the nutritional quality of the food, the composition of the food, the sustainability of the food. All of this are relatively new skills for the food industry. One of the questions I often ask my colleagues is, I've got a good understanding of how many engineers in the organization, technologists in the organization. I ask, how many physiologists do we have in your company? And you'll be surprised at the answer. And yet, what is human consumption? It's about our physiology, it's about our nourishment. Very, very rare to find a physiologist within a food beverage company. Maybe one or two. We brought in physiologists, we brought in people who understand the clinical aspects, people with omics background, molecular biology background, start to enrich the thinking of the rest of it. Not that the rest of the team is not necessary, absolutely critical, but this was the added thinking. And you don't get that thinking until you actually have people at the table with the expertise to actually confidently and informatively discuss it. All too often, you'll find R&D organizations in our industry at the team, there's nobody at the table who has the expertise. And I'm not talking about somebody who went to college and studied physiology, somebody who actually understands the discipline.